Welcome back to Stage Dive. Today I have something a little bit different for you. It's something we've been experimenting with over the last couple of weeks. And what I noticed is that even though I have no questions prepared for any of our guests, I inevitably end up circling back to a couple of themes or questions that I must just have some curiosity around. And so what we've done is we've taken answers from different guests that are to a similar question, so that if you have a curiosity around a specific piece of guidance, maybe what would you have told your younger self, how do you prepare for shows, etc., you get a big dose of all of it from different guests in one episode. We're trying this out. This is new, so if you enjoy it, please let us know. You can email us at stagedivepodcast@gmail.com, or you can reach out on social media at stagedivepodcast. We would love to hear from you, and please enjoy this little mishmash episode.
What advice would you give to people who are trying to break into public speaking or trying to get on their first stages?
Start out with the local groups. Start out small. I recommend groups like Toastmasters. I think that's because it's guaranteed. You pay like very minimal 6-month fee. Let's say $30-$40. You're guaranteed to get your speaking opportunities there. And then from that point, you can reach out to local studio, like a commerce. What else? Rotary clubs are good. Lions Dance, nonprofit. That's where I started.
And are those opportunities easier to get by just because there's plenty of demand and not a big supply of speakers, or?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, got it. And they'll take all kinds of topics, or?
Yeah, they usually they are very flexible with the topic as long as you make some positive impact for them.
Okay.
I think the Rotary Club will be the easier one for me to get. That's how I got started, and then some of the local city, I don't know what you call it, commerce. Those a little bit harder because it depends on what problem they're trying to solve. So you need to be it doesn't, like, you still have a lot of flexibility, but you may want to tailor your stories and examples to help them.
If I could give anyone advice that just started comedy, I would say stop lying. Like this, like if you're going to be an artist, no one's asking you to get on stage. So be true to yourself and be naked. But going back to tell these comedians, it's like, be yourself and just remember that comedy is an emotion, and it's all about you. And push the art. Don't play it safe. This fucking sucks. Ugh, I'm so tired of these jokes that are, they're just not going to last. Be timeless. Ugh. Man, in fact, these freaking newspaper comics piss me off. Hey, did you see the news today? Like, be universal. Yeah. If you live in New York, don't just talk about the fucking trains all day. Because when you go to Kentucky, you're not going to be funny. All right. If you're in Atlanta, you talking about gas stations all day. Do not come to New York talking about no damn gas station. We get gas and we leave. We do not hang out and party at the gas stations over here. Be universal. So
yes.
Let me switch gears a little bit. What is the best and the worst advice you've ever gotten when, like, as someone who is singing?
The worst advice is really easy, because I feel like when you get bad advice and you can identify it as that right away, it's a very empowering thing.
Yes.
So I had made a plan. I was going to go to New York and I was going to find a manager because I thought I was finally ready. And I planned the entire trip. I emailed so many contacts. I set up so many meetings. I set up so many auditions. And I didn't really tell that many people about it because I was more busy just planning this and getting excited about it. And I had somebody reach out to me who was a mentor of mine. And I told them about my plan. And they said, that's a waste of time and money. And I remember pausing and having, it was a short pause in real life, but in my head, it was like an eternity where I thought, they don't understand me at all. This is one of the best ideas I've ever had. And I came back from New York with a manager. And I remember thinking, that person is speaking from their reality,
Yes.
and they don't have to understand my reality. I know it's coming with good intentions, but sometimes the best advice and the worst advice comes from good intentions.
Yes.
And knowing when to decipher that made me feel so good. And also, it also kind of gave me motivation to say, like, I think this choice is right for me, and I'm going to follow through the very best that I can. And it gave me fuel for the trip. It wasn't going to be a waste of money. I knew it just in that moment that it was not going to be a waste of time or money.
Yep.
So that was my worst advice.
Yep.
The best advice. Oh, that's hard. I feel like I'm constantly getting great advice from everyone I'm around all the time.
A reframe could be, what advice, if you could go back to you at 18 and when you were just starting and you were feeling good energy, what advice would you give to that version of yourself?
Oh, I love that. I think I would give her the advice that it might feel good to be goal oriented, but it's more important to be process oriented. Because especially at a young age, I would work towards a goal and I would be so obsessed with that goal or that performance. Say I got cast in something and I would work really hard on it and I would stress and stress, and then the performance would go well and I got a good review. And because I had been so hyper fixated on the goal instead of the process and the love of it, I wouldn't do anything after that. I wouldn't practice. I wouldn't be curious. I would kind of go blank because I had achieved the thing and it was more about the thing than the process. And it took me a long time to realize that. And that was after I had, overcome a lot of my stage fright. But it still felt like I was grinding towards a goal. And then I would take 3 steps back because I would go, oh, I got the goal. Phew, time to dissociate.
Time to black out and just leave Earth for a little while.
Yeah, and I would not practice for weeks at a time after I had done a show, and I would completely disconnect from my art form.
Yeah.
And I think that it's much more healthy to approach everything with, I love this process. It's never ending. One day is going to be a goal. Oh, look, there it went. That's fine. Keep going.
If someone wanted to get into circus arts or to be an aerialist and they're not sure how to start, where to start, what advice would you give them?
I feel right now, if you want to be very competitive in this industry, I would recommend you start taking whatever discipline you want, but not just do that. Just add on, take gymnastics, take ballet, take dance. If you have time, take some singing classes. If you can pick an instrument, it's a great class. Now I feel the performing arts, they're looking a whole, not just one thing. And then you can be amazing on that thing, but also if you can touch these other elements, you're gonna be ahead of the game with anybody else. So I just educate yourself as much as you can.
When it comes to performance, I think it's interesting. There's sort of like 2 avenues you can go down. One is people who are where you were 3 years ago, and they have a curiosity, and they're like, how do you start? How do you even begin to think about that sort of thing? So I have a whole series of questions around, like, if you had to recommend one magic trick that someone could learn that you think is like a good skill to have and is fun to perform for other people, like, where would you advise people to start if they just wanted to try?
Yeah, I think card tricks in general are a great place to start. There's a million card tricks. YouTube has a bunch of easy tutorials for learning stuff. Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna teach a card trick right now, but yeah, there's a lot of, I would say, beginner card tricks is where I would start. That's where I started, and I think cards is a classic, and there's a lot you can learn just as a beginner with cards.
And how long, like, and I'm sure there's levels, right? There's probably like a certain amount of time to be able to just do it, like at a very basic level. Then there's an amount of time to do it passably. And then there's an amount of time of like, I don't mastery. I don't know if that's quite the right term, but like how long ish does it take you, or did it take you when you started to kind of get a trick from like, I just started learning it today. And like now it's part of my routine and I don't even think about it.
Yeah, I mean, there's tricks that, I mean, with magic, there's so many different moves and sleights and things that, you have to have your hands in certain positions that just take, it's muscle memory and motor movement and all of that. So there's things that I'll just fidget with. I'll bring a deck of cards with me wherever I go, and I'll just like under the table at the restaurant, just work on that one little sleight or that one little move. And maybe I'll do that for like 6 months and be like, okay, now I kind of have it or whatever. But there's other tricks that I purchase and I'll perform that same day. So there's every level of magic, just depending on what you want to do. And that's the beauty of it is there's magic at all levels, and there's all sorts of crazy things you can do. There's stuff you can buy that's just gimmicked and it looks real, and you just take it and it's self-working, and it's all in your delivery, how you present it and how your interaction with your spectators. So yeah, any and everything.
Yeah.
But it took about a year. Well, let's see. Before I started learning magic about 3.5 years ago, and after about 2 years, well, I'd say I went really hardcore with street performing for a year, and then I was ready to start performing full time, doing close up.
Well, one, when I was on Top Gun, someone taught me, I can't remember who, I don't know if it was coaches, but they taught me to, when you're trying out or auditioning or you're about to go on the floor and compete, that's probably what it was too. With Top Gun, like the pressure was so high, the routines were so hard, endurance-wise, strength-wise. 2 minutes and 30 seconds doesn't seem long, but let me tell you, when you are nonstop the entire time, like you think you're gonna die, like you're gonna pass out, your heart's gonna stop, like it's pounding so hard. So when you go out on that level of competitiveness, your pressure is just so high. But to cope with it, someone told me you have to dedicate your performance to someone else, not to you. So I always do that. I always dedicate it to someone who has passed in my family, or even someone still there, like my grandmother that when she was alive. And to this day now, before an audition, I will dedicate my audition or even my performance on live television. Anything with high pressure, I dedicate it to this person, whether that is they're here or they passed on. If I dedicate everything I'm doing to someone else, it's not about me. It's not. I'm not so wrapped up in myself. I don't make it a selfish thing. I'm doing this now for someone else. And when you do something for someone else, a dedication performance per se or audition, you don't want to mess that up because now you're doing it for them. You know what I mean? Like this is a gift to them. So that is something that has always helped me. And I would say for anyone that's trying to become a Los Angeles based dancer too, like your craft and your talent is definitely important. But one thing I learned on scholarship and in the industry is that I would say it's like these percentages, this is not to be exact, but ballpark, like 50% talent, 30% looks. And that means like how you're training, being ready in the gym, like everything. And then maintaining your look, and then 30%, and then 20% networking and getting yourself out there. You know what I mean? Like doing like this, getting the word out, getting you out there. You know what I mean? And in this day and age, there's so many ways to do it with social media and YouTube, everything. But yeah, so that 30% of look is like making sure you're always ready. So
Yes.
I used to do it on a material level, but now I do it deeper than that. Like it's so much more than just like the surface. Like you can't get sick on something. Like if you get a job that's 5 days a week, 2 shows a night, getting sick really hinders your paycheck.
I like advice, honestly.
Okay, perfect. Then let's keep going in that direction. So I love that you said that you're constantly kind of out looking for artists. What do you look for in an artist that you want to work with? You and I acknowledge you already sort of said, I need someone who's willing to do the work. I need someone who can meet me 50-50. I need someone who, to some extent, can manage their own stress. But are there, either hard metrics or soft metrics, or kind of what do you need or want to see in an artist that you want to work with?
I think what I have learned to want to see is a specific kind of work ethic. And so it's easy to spot raw talent, and it's easy to get really excited by somebody's potential. But if they don't see that potential, well, first of all, yeah, if they don't see the potential, it's useless. But if also they are unwilling to pursue that potential, it's also not going to work. And I feel this is crazy to me. More artists are unwilling to work towards the potential than you think they are. Like there's a lot of artists who think like, I want to be an artist. I want to do anything it takes to be an artist, but they actually do not want to do everything it takes to be an artist. They are unwilling to take these steps. Even if you make a list and you spell it out and you can be like, I can strategize you going from here to here within a year, but we have to do these particular things, and they are still unwilling to do it. And I don't know what the word is. It's not necessarily work ethic. It's like, it's not laziness. It's maybe like a lack of vision or something, but I can spot that in a person now when after a couple of sessions, I realize they're not going to do these things. It's not going to happen. And sometimes it's stubbornness. Sometimes it's people who are unwilling to move from their own vision and allow somebody else to have one. And I truly believe if you want to work with somebody who can make you better, you need to also be able to see their vision. And so this goes both ways. Like I really can't stand producers who get an artist into their studio and they are just putting something on this artist. Like, I think you would be a great Taylor Swift. And they're like, let's put some mandolin on it. And let's put, it's like they're trying to just put a box and like put it on top of a person. A lot of artists are totally fine with it because they don't necessarily have that vision yet. And they just pay somebody to give them that vision. And so somebody's lacking a vision, which in that case is the artist. So that's, in my mind, that's not going to work for me. But sometimes it also goes the other way around where like an artist is very set in their ways. It's like, I have this vision. I worked with this artist who literally was like, I want to hire my own musicians. And I was like, okay, well, let's bring them into the studio. And the musicians came and they were terrible. Like, could not play a single line. And the guitarist, I was like, let's play this. And I had to play it for the guitarist and he still could not figure it out. And I couldn't say like, it's a G because he didn't know what a G was. And so I told this artist like, look, I don't think we're going to be able to work with these musicians. Can we bring in outside people? And he was like, absolutely not. It has to be with these people. And I was like, okay, well then we're not going to work together because I can see in my future a lot of editing and a lot of me secretly replaying all your guitar player's parts because he can't play it and I just don't want to do that. Yeah. So he didn't see my vision, and so there's two visions. So you have to kind of work eye to eye with somebody and allow each other to lift the project to a better place.
Yeah, absolutely. So I would love to hear from you because you navigated it so successfully. It sounds like either what advice would you offer to someone who is feeling stuck in between, like, this is what I love, but this is what I'm hearing, or even what advice, or you found yourself
sort of like what positive things were you saying to yourself to feed your soul? Because at some point it grates on you when you're just hearing over and over again, you're doing it wrong, you're doing it wrong, you're doing it wrong.
I think what I always tell people when they first start is go to the talent shows or the spaces that are holding places for artists to perform for free, and start performing there. Get out there and do your art your way, because what is going to happen is you are going to attract the people who love your stuff. You know, my child Rip Lee, they were just getting out on the scene, and I was doing shows over in St. Pete, and they were competing in Tampa, and I kept hearing this buzz in my ear. Oh, you have a new child. You have a new child. You have a new child. Like, I'm going, what? No, I don't. I don't know who they're like, oh my gosh, this Rip Lee person they're just like you. Their art is just like you. Like, you're going to love what they see. And I was like, I don't need no children. I am not doing this. What are you talking about? And then I saw them one night, and I saw their drag, and I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. Okay, I understand. And I went up to them, and I was like, hi, everyone keeps telling me that you're my drag child. I just wanted to meet you. Your drag is amazing. And they were very thankful, and we just started hanging out. And we started hanging out. We became friends. They became my child. And I started giving them my knowledge and my information and everything that I could to help them grow, because they do an alternative drag style as well. It's very spooky, crazy, blood, guts, gore. It's not your normal cup of tea that people like. So I started teaching them how to host, or how to hold themselves, or how to speak. Because at the end of the day, drag is a business. And you can be a drag queen who performs, or a drag entertainer that performs, and that's great. Or you could have a business with it. And I think that's sometimes where people, they miss that mark. They think, oh, I'm just doing drag. You know, I can make a job out of this. But they don't realize that it's a lot more. It's about promoting yourself, mingling, networking, doing all this stuff. So when I brought them in, I started sharing them all my information, and now, they're hosting their own shows. They're doing this, they're doing that, and they're working for the places that want them, because they had that person who saw their drag for it and gave them the knowledge. So when you go out there and you perform in places, maybe you're not trying to win. Maybe you're not trying to get a booking right then and there, but you never know who's in that audience. You never know who's watching you, and someone will love your drag for what it is. And then also, and they'll come in, they'll love you, and also search out those people. Find people whose drag you respect and you love, and because those are the people who are going to hype you up the most. Don't be an alternative spooky entertainer and then go find the most pageantry to the T entertainer and expect them to give you information other than you need to change your drag. You know what I mean? It's like,
for sure.
Surround yourself with the people who just want to see your art form grow, because they're, it's not always just flowers and love and stuff. I tell Rip when they have done a bad job, or when they need to work on this better, but it's sent from love, and they know I'm not asking them to change their drag. I'm saying, hey, you could probably do this, and it might help you with this. And I think that's the biggest thing that new entertainers need to surround themselves with, is the people who love their art and are willing to nurture it in a right way. You need to surround yourself with those people, because like I said, community and family, like that is extremely important, and they will help you grow the most.
Yeah,
definitely.
That's beautiful. Mastery of crowd work. Your job was to interact with people in 78 different shapes and containers all the time. So, like, what do you feel like you learned about how to engage and interact with people during those 8 years?
One, I'm almost impossible to embarrass. I basically don't believe in the concept of being embarrassed, because that's other people's problem and not my problem. Because I don't really care how people view me. right? So like how people view me is not an issue. And I definitely think that a lot of that stems from being like, I could fall down and throw a temper tantrum and cry in the middle of a street in a giant dress and a wig, and everybody's just like, and I'm like, ha, funny. You know, like that freedom of feeling like I can exist however I want is pretty good. It's taught me a lot of skills that I can use in real life of just saying no. My favorite thing is if somebody is asking you to do something that is a favor for them, but you still don't want to do it, I just say, oh, no, thank you. So, like, if the people were chasing us with the autograph books, we were really only allowed to sign those, like, in line, because obviously, like, it would be insane to just, like, stop and sign one. They'll be like, oh, Drizella, sign this. And I go, oh, no, thank you. And then they're like, what just happened? Huh? I do that in real life. I'm like, oh, no, thank you. Can I get your number? No, thank you. Wait a minute.
That's amazing. Oh my God. Power of no.
Yeah, saying no is super, super powerful. I will do it for myself. I will do it for other people. It's just bringing out your inner Drizella to the outside.
Go.
But yeah, I mean, in terms of acting and the way it is like I joke, but it's not a joke that like I could talk to a wall if I needed to. I've never done stand-up, but I kind of want to, because I feel like it sounds like the key to stand-up is that you can just keep talking and going, even if nobody gives you any reaction at all. As people watch the Disney commercials, and it's like kids running to your arms and being like, I've been waiting my whole life to meet you. Even though most of the time it's more like this. It's like the parents like shoving the kid in the bippity boppity boutique dress they just paid $300 for, and the kid's like, that's 90% of the interactions that you're having. It's that, or the adults walk up and they're like, where do I put my hands? How do I take a picture? And I'm like, you're not going to talk to me?
Yeah.
You want to talk to me first? Start with a compliment. And they're like, what? Oh my God. It's just like,
oh my God, that's amazing.
It's that kind of stuff. And I do feel like that is something that I'll have my whole life. Have you ever met somebody where they're just like having a moment and they're like, oh my God, do you ever just think of outer space and it's like, it's so big and we're like this one little tiny speck in nothing, and I'm like the speck on the speck on the speck, and like nothing matters, and they're so freaked out, and you look at me and I'm like, nothing matters.
Nothing matters.
Nothing matters. Nobody cares what you do. Nobody cares that you fell down in the middle of the road. As long as you were okay and no one needed to call for medical assistance, nobody cares what you're doing ever. So I find it very enlightening that I'm just like, nobody cares about me. Who cares? Do it.
Yes. Yeah.
So it's easier to not be embarrassed. It's like, okay.
Oh my God, assuredly.
Sure.
Are there places where you find artists are getting themselves into trouble or glossing over details? I think band formation is a great one of like, before there's anything really at stake, and not even in legalese, right? Like pull up a Word document. Here's who we are. Here's what we're forming. Here's who owns it. Sign. Awesome. No lawyer even required. But are there other areas where you think artists are not getting taken advantage of, but potentially putting themselves in compromising positions by not having more forethought about how to navigate something?
I mean, I think that really applies across the board. Like it's what you just said. It's just having the forethought to think about how you're going to navigate something. It's about anytime there is any sort of business arrangement, anytime money is exchanging hands, we should have a contract, basically. And so where and when that fits together and who's handling that contract may vary, but it is still always going to be important in my experience. I mean, you also have to realize my experience is or rather, my opinions are colored by my experience. And what I mean by that is people contact me when something goes wrong, right? I get to hear, no client has ever called me like, hey, everything went great today, right? It's like, so I'm going to think about how could this deal go wrong? And I'm not encouraging everybody to spend their lives thinking about what could go wrong. But when you say, oh, this gig is great because we're going to get paid this much and all we have to do is play this little and it's super cool and easy. Fantastic. What happens if it rains? What happens if the power goes out? What happens if your bassist gets COVID? Whatever it is, that's why we have contracts.
Yes.
So
that makes a lot of sense.
I mean, yeah. And I think the thing that I will caution people against is there are a lot of like the internet is a beautiful, wonderful, horrible place, right? There's a lot of great things on the internet. There's a lot of trash on the internet. I'm not talking about people. I'm talking about contracts that people download off the internet, because I see contracts that I'm like, this has nothing to do with your situation. You might have typed in, producer agreement and come up with a producer agreement, but did you realize it was a film producer agreement, not a music producer agreement? Like, you just find shit that's like, this is not the right document for this purpose. Yeah. And so, again, better to have a contract than not to have a contract. We want to make sure we have the right contract.
Thank you so much for listening to Stage Dive. I'm having so much fun having all these conversations and meeting these wonderful, wonderful people. But I appreciate that this is also going out to you, the person who is listening. So my request, my ask, my desire, if you have any curiosities, questions, guest recommendations, suggestions for the podcast, please send us an email at stagedivepodcast@gmail.com. We read every single email that comes through. We will get back to you. And we really do want to hear what you love about the podcast, things that you think could improve, and how we can make this a better show for you. So please don't hesitate to reach out. Thank you so much.